Welcome back to the channel. My name is Crawford. This is Virginia's for Lowriders, and today we're trying to get caught up. I'm going to be including the progress that I've made on the Mazda so far in the last like three weeks, I think. I'm not sure how long it's been since I put a video up of the Mazda. I put some things that I've done around the garage up, like the fuel tank that I made for a friend of mine. If you haven't watched that, it's a pretty quick video, you can check that out. Some shock taps for the Mazda, but there's a lot of footage I'm going to put on here that's things that I've done to the Mazda and some big changes that I came up with because it's not going as planned. I ran into some hiccups and had to cut some stuff off, and you'll see. But the reason I haven't posted anything about the Mazda is this thing right here, which hopefully equates into some more efficiency, I guess. Gets me out here more often. I put a mini split in, or I should say my friends and I put a mini split in. We put one in. There was some old used stuff that we were trying to make work. It didn't work out, so I ended up ordering one, installed that this week. I picked up some wheels for another project this past week, and then 2 weeks ago, the same buddy that helped me with that came over. We pulled the transmission and clutch out of his son's car, put a new transmission and a new clutch in it. There's been a lot of stuff. I have a whole bunch of parts that I ordered for the Mazda that I'll show you, and yeah, so stick around, comment, like, and subscribe. I'm trying to go over this stuff real quick. These are some 14-inch Daytons that I picked up. They were ran for 1 season from the guy that I met, which is a very super cool, nice guy. And I got in total 6 of them from him. 2 14x6s, 4 14x7s, so I have options depending on if I make the car layout. But these are true stamped Daytons, and they're like a year old. They didn't have brake dust on them. They are super fresh. There's a couple more knockoffs, and then boxes. As you can see, this is why I need to take a break today and clean the garage, because it's become a catch-all between detailing some vehicles, because a friend of mine picked up a new car that, yeah, there's a lot. But let's see, I haven't actually looked at this stuff yet to even make sure it was all in there. This is kind of concerning, the fact that this is how this came in the mail. Hopefully nothing fell out. But I actually got a magnet. Totally worth the entire purchase. Got a magnet. 2 calipers and some pigtails for the headlights. All of the front bearings and rear bearings, rotors, drums, and there's another Rock Auto box over there. And then for other future projects, found a guy on eBay selling accumulators at a pretty decent price. So I picked up some of these in, I don't know, preparation for another project. Whole lot of stuff. I got some brand new mirrors for the Mazda. All of the stuff to do front pads, rotors, calipers, bearings, and seals. Seals, bearings, drums, and shoes. Mirrors. Yeah, all of that stuff. Hopefully, we'll make this thing go down the road smooth and stop. So, I think that's about it for the money I've wasted so far. in the last 2 weeks, but let's just get into the work and show you all the stuff I've done so far. We're doing some contemplating because I've been out here staring at this truck for about 2 hours trying to figure out what I want to do, and the only thing I can come up with is take a sawzall and a grinder and just cut it all off and start over because I keep finding stuff that's messed up. I'm going to try and give a basic rundown without a bunch of rambling. Bear with me so I can try to explain this. I put the rear end up. It's ratchet strapped into place. I put the rear bag mounts that we made in the last episode, video, whatever you want to call it, in place with a lower bag mount. That bag mount is keeping the rear end centered with these bolts, with the bolt holding it onto these. So that rear end, judging by those bolts and by the bag mounts, should be centered in the notch correctly if this guy did this job right, because these were here before. So with that being said, that should correct a lot of issues because the lower bag mounts that were on the rear end were way too far forward, so I needed to fix that. The pinion angle was absolutely terrible. Worst I've ever seen. This was almost touching here. When the truck is laid out, the rear end shifts forward and jams itself into the transmission. Absolutely terrible. With this centered the way that it is, the way that it's supposed to be, I shouldn't have had to really done anything. I should have been able to put the rear end in there and just started mocking stuff up. But that's not the case. Even a little bit. Not even close to the case, because the rear end in that position is crooked. It's off by like 3/4 of an inch. I'm talking like this. That portion of the rear end is 3/4 of an inch closer to the cab than this portion of the rear end. And everything is centered. You can see there, the lower bag mount is centered on the rear. So I think my game plan here is I'm going to leave this, but I'm going to cut off this, trim this up. I don't think I'm going to remove this because that'd be way too much cleaning for no reason. That's a lot of extra work. And I think I can make it look nice and flow and whatever. I'm just going to cut all this off. I think we're going to end up doing a bag behind axle setup, and that will fix the rear end. I can move the rear end back. I can put the bags behind the rear. That will fix them not being square and centered and all that stuff. It'll fix a lot of issues all in one, and I can make it mine. And that would be almost the last little bit of stuff left on the truck that I didn't do, so I can feel more confident about it being on the truck. I got the old Sawzall out. I think there ain't nothing to it but to do it on this. And try out these new auto dismantling blades. Wow. That'll fix it every time. Well, now that I wasted the time marking that, good thinking about it, I think it'd be a lot easier if I go ahead and get the paint off of it now. I have tried everything I have. Flat disc grinders, everything. It does not want to take that off. But I got this thing the other day from Hobius Freitas. So let's see what it does. I did that just because cutting with a torch through paint is not really a thing. It would fight me the entire time. Cleaning that up first will save me a lot of headache. The bugs in my garage today are crazy. Everywhere. It's center-ish, right? here's a basic rundown of where I'm at now. After messing around and getting the rear end set in place for the last hour, because there's not a straight surface on this truck to measure from on both sides. So the only thing I have to judge by is these mounts on both sides, those mounts on both sides. I don't really want to use the cab, but I can use those lower mounts, and that's what I did. So everything is judged off of body mounts. I can't go off the rear because that's been cut off and modified. Using these as my measuring points and that lower cab mount as my measuring point. The rear is set in here and it's set square now. Now it is slightly towards the rear instead of being towards the front of the notch. That way it corrects the drive shaft being pushed into the transmission when the truck is laid out, because it was so bad before it would make the throw-up bearing whine. So now it's set back a little bit. This has a slight amount of in and out on the transmission. So all of that I feel comfortable about. I feel comfortable about all of this. It's square. I need to set the side to side, which I'm not really worried about just yet because I have a lot of other stuff to do. I have the lower mount just set up into place temporarily with a really big zip tie holding it there. I got my temporary 4-link bar set here, and with this set in place I can cut it to length. I think I'm going to come back a little bit further than where the factory mount was. That way I gain a little bit of ground clearance, and this bar, if I cut it to about here, will be level at what is right now half travel of what the bags are when the truck is laid out, touching the rear end to the notch. I don't know if all that made sense. It made sense in my head, but you'll get it as I go along. Now I need to go through and cut the remaining portions of the old leaf spring mounts off, clean all that up, get all of this stuff the way I want it. I need to clean up this edge so I can weld to it. Pretty much what I'm saying is there's a lot more grinding to do, and then fabrication can happen again. Trying to make this video and actually get the video out for the last 12 days, but it has been non-stop, over and over and over. Something comes up. Today we worked on a friend of mine's son's car to put a new transmission in it. Got hung up on that whole ordeal because of some bolts that are torque to yield that he didn't buy, and we didn't want to take the chance of reusing them. And then the other day we worked on my AC in the garage. That didn't work out. And then the other day I helped a buddy of mine weld up a fuel tank in his car. And the other day I ended up helping another friend with another welding project, and so on and so on and so on, in traffic and getting home late and like excuses and rambling. But after today, with messing with the TC for most of the day because that took way too long, and then it stormed and all that stuff, finally getting back in the garage, and it's like, doesn't look like it. It's like 8:30, sometimes awesome. So one of the things that I've been doing the last couple days is trying to figure out placements of everything on this rear end. Got my little string line here, got me a little makeshift cardboard thing here to make sure that everything that I do is going to work out properly. I got some sweet mock-up 4-link bars to give me a visual representation of what I need to achieve here. And after staring at it and staring at it and staring at it, I came up with the fact that the tabs for the rear end were just a little too short. And if I added 1 inch to the height of the tabs, if I made this 1 inch longer, it'll give me the instant center that I need. It'll give me the correct length for my bars to where my bars aren't stubby. And everything should be okay. So tonight, I'm going to make some of these 1 inch longer. And I'm just going to start welding some stuff together and see what happens. The only thing is that I'm not sure about is I came up with this little contraption late one night. I don't know if that's going to stay in the truck. It kind of sucked to cut it off, but it doesn't really matter. It's part of it. I was just trying to come up with something that I could tie into, because the way that I initially wanted to do this was the lower bar would stop about here, but with the lower bar, let's see if I can try to explain this. With the lower bar stopping way up here, my angle will be off and my instant center will be somewhere on the ground over there, like underneath the tire, because the bar's almost pointing down at that point. So I need to make the tabs a little longer in order to achieve an instant center that actually points somewhere near the front bumper instead of the ground 20 feet in front of it. So this, I think, is what I'm going to go with here. It gives me a slight couple degrees of incline on this bar, which will hopefully turn into a good controlling instant center and correct pinion angle and all of that good stuff. So I need to get to work because I'm rambling yet again, and that's probably the 10th time in this video because it's taken me forever to put this video together. Somehow, between the memory cards I have for my GoPro, I lost probably 3 hours of work and footage. So that about wraps up for this video. Check back in next week and we'll try and make some actual progress on this truck, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be welding stuff back on the truck instead of cutting stuff off and going backwards. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.